Getting up on the board is the first major hurdle for most novice kitesurfers. But even once you're up, you have many things to contend with to actually ride along for any serious amount of time. In this chapter, we're going to break down this fundamental stage of your development into two progressions. First, we'll look at just the water start, getting you up on the board and pointing it in the right direction. Then we'll tackle your first runs. There's no points here for style, we're simply looking to get you riding along for 50, 100 or 200 metres, whatever it takes to give you the true feeling of what it is to kitesurf. We'll worry about improving your stance in the next chapter, where we'll look at riding and staying upwind. Water starting is a fundamental part of kitesurfing. In fact, you'll use it so often it will eventually become second nature. But for now, it's the first real challenge to you as a kitesurfer. Before attempting a water start, you must be comfortable flying the kite across the wind window and be able to control the kite with one hand. You'll need a free hand so that you can body drag out from the beach, position the board and put it onto your feet. Even though most of the focus is on the board for this manoeuvre, don't forget to keep your eye on the kite. Be fully aware of the events around you when you're water starting. Check for other kite surfers and water users downwind, possible obstacles in the water, and your proximity to the beach. To achieve this, walk or body drag out until you're a safe distance from the beach. How far out you go will depend on the wind direction and the size of any waves. So let's start with a full run through of the water start. Position your kite so that it's directly above you at 12. Position one hand at the middle of the bar and use the other one to take the board by one foot strap, bringing it in front of you. Lying back in the water, put your feet into the foot straps one at a time. Once both are in, use the board's handle to help wedge your feet securely into the straps. Keep an eye on your kite and ensure that it stays close to 12 throughout. Put both hands back on the bar. Keep your weight back against the kite and your legs bent, putting your knees towards your shoulders. Pull lightly with your back hand to position the kite in the opposite direction you intend to go, in this case 1 o'clock. Pull hard with your front hand to dive the kite into the power zone in the direction you want to go. Let the kite's power pull your shoulders towards your knees so that your body gets pulled up over the board. Keep your weight over the centre of the board with your back legs slightly bent and stretch out your front leg to direct the board downwind. If necessary, continue to work the kite to generate power. Make sure the kite stays over your head while getting the board on your feet. Do this by having your hand in the middle of the bar and keeping the bar sheeted in enough so that the kite stays responsive and in control. You must bring the kite slightly back in the opposite direction that you want to go. This makes it easier to steer the kite down into the power zone for an initial surge of power. How deep you have to dive the kite into the power zone depends on the wind strength. When you're first getting used to the power of your kite, it is better to pilot the kite from one side to the other on the higher part of the wind window. Then gradually drop it deeper into the power zone, repeating until you find the perfect amount of power to pull you comfortably up onto the board. The first challenge is getting the board onto your feet. Keep your weight back against the kite and your legs pulled into your chest. Holding one of the straps, try and get the first foot into the foot strap as quickly as possible. Then you can move the other foot into the remaining strap. Finally, use the board's handle to wedge your feet firmly into the straps. Bring your legs in towards your chest. As the kite comes down to the power zone and the kite begins to pull, rock your body forwards over the board, keeping your legs under your body. You initially need to keep your weight over the back of the board to counteract the initial surge of power from the kite. Then your weight becomes more balanced between your feet so that the board can accelerate downwind. To achieve this, as you come up over the board, keep your back leg bent and extend your front leg to point the board downwind. As you feel that initial kite power start to decrease, let the kite pull you more upright, with both your legs slightly bent so that you're standing up over the board. As you will soon learn, where you look with your head and shoulders affects your whole body position, and it is crucial in every aspect of your kite surfing. So here at the water start, it's important that you look forward in the direction you plan on riding. This will help to naturally set your body position so that you can easily transfer your weight between your feet as needed. If you struggle to get the board on your feet and get twisted in the water, putting you off balance, then you're allowing the kite to move from 12 off to one side of the wind window. You want the kite to stay directly above you whilst you're getting your feet into the foot straps. Make sure your hand is close to the centre of the bar to reduce any accidental bar movements. Keep the bar sheeted in enough so that the kite is stable in the sky and responsive if you need to steer it to correct its position. Once the board is in place, if you put too much pressure on just one foot, it will also cause the board to spin you round. Play with your foot pressure on the board to keep your board in the right position before doing your water start. If you are twisting around to the right, then you have too much pressure on your left foot. Push on the right foot to bring yourself back around. Alternatively, take your feet out of the foot straps and begin the water start process again from the beginning. If you struggle to get pulled out of the water, then you may be doing one of two things wrong. You're making too small a movements of the kite, confining it to the upper parts of the wind window. You need to build up confidence to send the kite further down into the power zone so that you can generate power. Practice by gradually increasing the size of the figure of 8 motion, going deeper into the power zone each time until you find the amount of power that will get you up onto the board. Alternatively, leave the board back on the beach and go try a couple of body drag runs to get used to flying the kite without the resistance of the board. Another reason you're not getting pulled out of the water is you're steering the kite down the edge of the wind window where there is little power. The reason why you are doing this is either that you are being too timid and not pulling hard enough with your front hand, or that you're not initially piloting the kite slightly behind you. You need the kite to go deep into the power zone, and by sending the kite a little bit behind you to start with, it allows the kite to build up more speed and give you more room to pilot the kite into the power zone. Be more aggressive when pulling with your front hand to get the kite turning faster and into the power zone.
If you find that you're getting up over the board but falling backwards after only a few metres, then you're doing one of the following. You start well with the board heading downwind, but lean back too much and your weight goes over your hillside edge, carving the board upwind and stalling. Keep your weight over the board. Lean back against the kite lightly. With your back leg bent, keep your front leg straighter so that you can continue to point the board downwind.
You don't direct the board downwind, therefore it can't pick up any speed. This happens when too much weight is on your front leg before you get pulled out of the water, which makes it harder for the kite to pull you up over the board and for the kite's power to accelerate the board. As the kite pulls you up out of the water, keep your back leg bent and pull it under your body. At the same time, push out with your front leg to direct the board downwind.
Your legs are too straight, so once again the board can't be directed downwind and the body can't rock up over the board as easily. Bent legs are essential to allow you to both get up over the board, but also allow you to adjust your body weight so it's distributed correctly between your feet, which in turn gives you the opportunity to control the direction of the board. If you find that you get pulled over the front of the board, again you have too much weight over your front foot, this time completely burying the nose of the board. As stated previously, as the kite pulls you up out of the water, keep your back leg bent and pull it under your body. At the same time, slightly straighten your front leg to direct the board downwind. You may be starting correctly, but forgetting to fly the kite back up to continue the figure of 8 motion, losing all the power. You need constant power from the kite, and in light winds or with smaller kites, you'll need to fly the kite in the figure of 8 motion to achieve this. Remember that the kite generates power whilst it's flying through the window, not whilst it's turning at the top or bottom of the figure of 8. So you need to ensure you start the kite turning before the power you have begins to disappear. Also remember to keep the bar sheeted in enough, as this will keep the power in the kite and allow it to turn faster and easier.
So you're up, out of the water and ready to blast along. But so often your fun is stopped all too soon. Getting a few metres of riding under your belt, even if your stance is far from perfect, will give you the opportunity to improve your kite flying, get a feeling for the board, but most importantly, give you your first taste of what it really means to kitesurf. So in this progression, we'll give you the key points you need to consider to survive those first runs, so you can start to think more about your riding and work towards staying upwind. First, here are some simple points to focus on. Keep your back legs slightly bent. with your front leg straighter to drive the board downwind. Allow yourself to lean back slightly against the kite, but try and keep your weight centered over the board as much as possible. Keep the bar sheeted in just enough so the kite is responsive to turn. Keep the kite moving in a smooth figure of 8. First thing to remember is that for your first runs you want to be riding downwind. Everyone's aim is to ride upwind, and you'll hear the phrase edging upwind a lot, but to start with this will complicate matters for most riders. Applying pressure to the hillside edge, which we'll cover in detail in the riding and staying upwind chapter, is a subtle technique that beginners can struggle to master on their first runs, so it's best to avoid it initially and aim to ride downwind, keeping your weight centered over the board. This will allow you to get a feeling for the speed of the board and see how small changes to the weight over your front and back feet and heels and toes can alter the board's course. During the water start, you are directing the board downwind to allow you to gain speed. After the initial surge of power, adjust your weight so it's evenly distributed between your feet, with your legs slightly bent and your weight forward over the board. By only leaning back lightly against the kite, you can keep the board relatively